Hey, what's up, everybody? What's up, everybody? It is your boy Chris. It's your boy Chris. This is another amazing episode of Financipation. This channel is all about making money. It's all about saving money. It's all about building generational wealth, and it's all about financially emancipating yourself from generational poverty. So I'm seriously looking forward to this interview because I'm interviewing an entrepreneur, and I love talking to entrepreneurs. Simple as that. I love talking to business owners because at the end of the day, a lot of YouTubers, they prefer to talk to, I don't know, entertainers or whoever. They prefer to talk to rappers, stuff like that. I like talking to entrepreneurs because to me, you guys are kind of the ones that kind of somewhat make the world go round, and to me, that's what capitalism legitimately is all about. No disrespect to my 9-to-5ers, I myself am a 9-to-5er, but I like kind of talking to entrepreneurs because you guys have a different perspective about how you look at the world, and I kind of like that. So right now I'm interviewing a very, very powerful person, a very impressive man. His name is Gerson Diaz, and he's going to tell you guys a lot more about himself. And I'm seriously looking forward to this. So thank you, Gerson, for signing on. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Chris, for having me on today.
All right, so let's start at the beginning. First and foremost, I guess, tell me a little bit about yourself. Who are you? Where'd you grow up? Where are you from? All that good stuff.
Okay, my name is Gerson Diaz. I was born in Barranquilla, Colombia.
Barranquilla.
56 years ago, but 54 years ago, my parents immigrated. My dad was an airline mechanic for National Airlines at the time, which then got bought out by Pan Am. So I came when I was a little bit less than 2 years old, and I grew up down here in Miami, Cutler Bay, actually. A block, actually, a half a mile from where my office is right now, where I was pretty much raised. I played sports, baseball, football, soccer, and I wrestled, and I love, I'm a South Florida boy, with Colombian roots. I have a wife, Claudia. We've been married for 19 years, and a daughter, Diana, who's 16 years old, and wanting to go on 30. So, keeping me running around. But I feel truly blessed with what God has given me.
Definitely. That's what it's about. Life, family. That's definitely what it's about. Barranquilla. I went to a salsa competition down in Colombia. I've actually been there a couple times. It's
in Colombia. Country. That was probably Cali. Cali is known for salsa.
Yeah, I was in Cali. I was in Medellin, Melgar, and Bogota. So yeah.
Nice.
So yeah, nice. I love Colombia. It's one of the most beautiful countries I've ever been to in my life.
Thank you. I didn't know you were a salsa guy. So look at that.
I was actually now I don't do it as often. Happy married. But I was I danced at a very relatively high level actually. So nice.
I'd like to see a video. That's cool. I'd like to see that.
All right,
that's actually great exercise as a trainer that you are. That's excellent exercise. So
what's actually funny? They always say don't give a man a sword that can't dance. When I used to box and kickbox and do all that stuff on a very high level. And one night a week, my cardio was actually salsa and bachata and everything. And yeah, your footwork, your rhythm, everything. I don't care whether it's dancehall, hip hop, bachata, salsa. If you dance, it definitely helps you in so many different other areas of your life.
Yes, sir. Actually, my wife and I, when we get a good, like I said, aerobic workout, we just put on some music and get a little dancing going. And it's actually, we're soaking wet afterwards, but it's a great exercise.
Yeah, and it's also one of the most beautiful things too, because you can go to like I know for instance, when I was in Colombia, Bogota, you can go to like a Latin or a salsa spot down there, and it could be 2:00 in the morning. You see like 90-year-old people dancing together. They've been married for like 75 years. It was crazy.
Beautiful thing. Yep, it is a beautiful thing.
Such a beautiful culture, definitely. I lived in Miami for 8 years, Gerson. What was it like growing up there? Because Miami was a little wild. What was it like growing up there?
Actually, Miami has changed so much. I kind of seen everything. Where I grew up, I'm down south. Cutler Bay was totally different than Miami, and I've been exposed to everything. Actually, it's an area that got destroyed by Hurricane Andrew, but I got to see, culture. I mean, there's been an influx of different types of cultures. It's so neat to see. It's a melting pot. Yeah. It's a melting pot because I remember growing up and it was part of the South, and my parents moved to a certain area of Miami, and I remember trying to get into 4K, and I was too white to go to a black pre-K, but I was too black to go to a white pre-K. So I was kind of like in limbo. I mean, and I look at how it's changing. I don't really remember that well. I remember my parents telling me that. I remember starting kindergarten where people were picketing outside when they would be, and desegregating schools, and I didn't know. I mean, like picketing outside, I'm like, and the teachers would bring us in, but inside the school, we were just one. I remember that was the big push. We were one, and we didn't care. I mean, I just, we were kids. And I look back, and then I see these movies as I grow up, and I just see people picking it. I'm like, wow, I lived it. I can remember that. But now Miami is totally different. Miami, even though it's in the South, it's not really considered the South. It's so, it is such a melting pot. I love it.
Definitely. I agree with that. And my father actually was he was in high school when they integrated his high school. So it's kind of interesting talking with you about that, Gerson. Being of Hispanic descent, that's pretty cool, actually. Definitely. Yeah. So you actually lived through history that I've read about. I mean, that's amazing. Definitely. Quick question. As a child of immigrants, what are some of the things, I know you said you moved to America relatively young, but as a child of immigrants, what's a advantage I would say that you kind of had being an immigrant coming into this country? Because the way America always tries to portray it, they try to portray it like if you're an immigrant, you're at a disadvantage. But I married an immigrant, full disclosure. I've seen a lot of powerful things through immigrants. You guys inspired me. So as an immigrant, what's something that you think that, what's an advantage you would say that you kind of have that a lot of Americans don't quite realize or we don't have?
Well, growing up as an immigrant, I actually grew up like an American because everything I remember but my parents being immigrants always taught me to make the most of my opportunities. And that's one thing you see immigrants make the most of their opportunities that we have here. There's so much, this is the land of opportunity. It really is. I mean, people can knock America all they want, but it is the best place to be. It really is. I mean, there's so much division going on. You got right, you got left, you got blue, you got red, you got, all kind of, I mean, look what's going on right now with Roe versus Wade. I mean, it's like you got pro-lifers, and everybody's divided. Right. But immigrants make the most of the opportunities that they can. I mean, and they're there. They're there for everybody. But some people just kind of take it for granted and don't really take advantage of it.
I agree with that. I agree with that completely. I tell a lot of my buddies, I've lived abroad, I've traveled abroad, I've worked abroad, stuff like that. And I always tell everybody in America, obviously you have slavery, Jim Crow, mass incarceration, you have all that stuff. You have Native American genocide, you have all that stuff in the United States, voter suppression, whatever. But I always tell everybody, look, honestly, in the United States, if you study hard and you work hard, you can be anything that you want.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, it's as simple as that. If you work hard, you can be anything that you want in the United States. And if you are financially literate, you take advantage of the opportunities that God gives you. You basically put your best foot forward. Yeah, you may get some doors slammed in your face, but you can literally be anything that you want in America. LeBron James in one generation went from living in the projects to being a billionaire. That's the power of America. So I always tell a lot of my buddies that kind of poo-poo the country. I'm like, yeah, I get where you guys are coming from, or I understand what you're saying is valid. But you legit can honestly become anything you want to be in the United States. And I see that every day. And immigrants, not to poo-poo Americans, I very clearly am one, but I've noticed that about immigrants. They come to this country and you guys have what I like to call that third world fire. It's like when you come here, you say, okay, I'm gonna take school seriously. I'm gonna push family. I'm gonna push marriage, hopefully. And I'm gonna basically become the best version of myself so that my kids and my grandkids can have a good opportunity. Immigrants, they realize that. I don't know if it's because of the countries they come from or what, but you guys realize that, and it has inspired me my entire adult life.
You always want to make a better life for the next generation, and that's what we want to do for our kids.
Absolutely. All right, Gerson, moving forward, as I said earlier, I like interviewing entrepreneurs because, in my opinion, entrepreneurs, independent contractors, you guys are kind of what the American dream typically is about. People, when they come to this country, they don't come to this country to basically, just kind of poo-poo or be average. They come here because they want to work for themselves. So first off, what does entrepreneurship mean to you, and describe your journey into entrepreneurship?
Well, going back, entrepreneur, I mean, I didn't plan. Basically, you go to school, you wanted to get your degree. I wanted to work in corporate America or in a facility where I get there, work my 40, 50 years, retire, get my pension. And that's what most people have the mentality, work somewhere for many years. But then my dad, I mentioned, worked for National Airlines, which got bought out by Pan Am. and he worked for Pan Am, for 30 years. And in 91, I remember the employees went on strike because the company was taking into the pension fund and dipping into the pension fund, and the pilots, the mechanics, the stewardesses, they all said, no, that's not going to happen. Well, I remember, and the federal government at the time stepped in and said, hey, you need to help them. Let them dip into that money because that's going to help the company out. And eventually it's going to help trickle down and help everybody out. Well, long story short, company dipped into the pension fund 6 months later, went belly up, everybody lost their pension funds. So I said, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do it on my own. I'm going to take my risk, which is part of entrepreneurship, and I'm going to work hard. And if I do it, I do it. And if I don't, sink or swim, I can blame it on myself, and that's how it is, in sports. I love playing sports. I remember being a great baseball player and, going 3 for 4, stealing base, playing ground field, and we still lose a game. It would drive me nuts. That's why I love wrestling. And I know you like the martial arts, one-on-one, you go all out, you have one person you can blame it on the win, one person you can blame on the defeat, and that's you. You got to just go out there and give your all. And that's how it is in business. I saw what happened to my dad, and I saw how they took their pension fund. My dad later, worked for Boeing, and, he's good now, thank God. But a lot of employees, got into depression. The ones who were older, who lost it all, really, were living on Social Security, and that you can't really rely on that. You really can't. So it's sad to see what that happened. And that happened with many companies. It happened with Eastern, so sometimes I decided to put it in my own hands. And God's hands, but me working hard, like you said, boots on the ground, working hard every day, taking the risk, late nights, sleepless nights where you're working hard and doing it. That's how I decided to do it. That's how, and God has blessed me that way.
Absolutely. Definitely. I like the analogy you said about sports. I played basketball, football, ran track. I played box, like kickbox. I did jiu-jitsu, MMA, all that stuff. And it's interesting because you're right. I got into the combat sports a little bit later, like in my late teenage years. But one thing I loved about that was that if you played football and you were a really good wide receiver, the quarterback sucked. You never got the ball because he couldn't throw it to you. If you played basketball and the point guard didn't like you was beefing with whoever, and they wouldn't pass you the ball, it was whatever. I like combat sports, like you said, in wrestling because it was an individual sport. And I love that analogy that you use as far as being an entrepreneur, because that's what a lot of entrepreneurs that I have talked to say. They say it's kind of like Chris being in the most competitive sport in the world. And another guy described to him, he says it's almost like being, he used the word high for 50 years. He was a 70-year-old guy. He'd been in business for 50 years. But he's like, but every morning you wake up with this adrenaline rush that you can't really describe. And I kind of saw that look in your eye when you were just describing it just now.
Yeah, I mean, people complain about Mondays. Oh, I have to go back to work. I'm pumped. Monday, all right, let's get back to work. Let's do what we need to do. Let's serve people. And that's what having your own business is all about.
Got you. Now tell me about this business. I know a little bit about it, but you haven't actually said. Tell me about your business. Tell me about what it is exactly that you do and what the name of the business is.
I'm a chiropractor. Business is Cutler Family Chiropractic Center. I've been practicing for 28 years. I opened my office, like I said, once I graduated from school, did my internship, got my license. I said, I'm doing it, and I went all out. My parents let me borrow the money to open up my practice, and here we are 28 years later, paid them back, paid off the school. It was a struggle at first, but we did it. God has definitely provided. I've mentioned several times when I opened up in this area gotten destroyed by Hurricane Andrew. So when I opened up, the economy in this area of South Florida was just really, in the pits. And it was just getting up. I was doing screenings, health fairs everywhere, educating, going to schools, doing career talks. I would set up at a Publix. I would set up at the mall. I was checking spines all the time. I was going, educating people on what we do. I mean, I love chiropractic. I got into it because I remember my mom, when I was 10, she was 40 as a matter of time. She had really bad back pain. She wound up going into the hospital. And the doctor told her, the doctor basically did the MRI, said, we need to do back surgery. If you don't have back surgery, in 6 months, you're going to be in a wheelchair for the rest of your life. Whoa. And I was like, whoa, we were freaking out. My dad, he said, well, no, let's get a second opinion. Somebody said, go to a chiropractor. My dad's like, a chiropractor? What? Being immigrant, what's a chiropractor? He didn't know. So, somebody referred him to a chiropractor. My mom got adjusted, felt much better. After the second adjustment, doing really good. My mom's now 86 years old, never had back surgery, never used a wheelchair, and she's healthy, So I learned back then from my parents, don't just take that first opinion, always look at a second opinion, because, doctors are human, they make mistakes too, but I like the chiropractic philosophy. I've been getting adjusted since then. And I realized the chiropractic philosophy is simple. It's not like regular medicine. Medicine, you get a headache, you take something for it. You get hurt, and in this country, we have the best emergency healthcare in the world, So if we get trauma, we have the best traumatologists, and we have the best, surgeons to get you, if we have an appendectomy, a heart surgery, we have the best emergency healthcare in the world. But our healthcare, when we associate it with the rest of the industrialized countries, we rank second to last in all the industrialized countries. We have more heart disease. We have more cancer than the rest of the world combined. That's scary, but we have more heart disease than any other country. Why is that? Because we don't understand the whole concept of what health truly is. I love the chiropractic philosophy. I learned it at a very young age. The power that made the body heals the body. That's one of the philosophies. And the other one is, we move the bone, God does the healing. All right. And it's very simple. I mean, your body was created perfectly. The brain is the master controller of everything. Okay. Your brain tells your heart what to do, your lungs what to do. Even if I'm flexing my hand right now, the brain's what's telling me to do that. Okay. All the messages start from the brain, down your spinal cord, out the nervous system. Actually, your nervous system is so intricate that if you got one nerve and line them up one after the other, it'd go all the way around the planet. That's how intricate your nervous system is, because it's controlling everything. It's controlling your immune system. So our job is to maintain a spine well aligned so that the body can function at its optimum. And that's basically what health is. I mean, most people ask you, what is health? What is health? People tell you it's when you feel good, when you have no pain, when you have no symptoms. That's not true. You could feel good today, die of a heart attack tomorrow. You could feel good, have AIDS, have cancer, and not know it. Your health is when your body is functioning at its optimum, regardless of how you feel. Because you can go work out. I can start working out really hard and haven't worked out in months and do a great chest workout. Next day, I'm going to feel terrible. That doesn't mean I'm not healthy. My body's reacting and giving me symptoms. So having symptoms and not being healthy are not the same thing. And not having symptoms and being healthy aren't the same thing. We want to make sure your body functions the way God intended for your body to function. And that's basically the chiropractic philosophy in a nutshell. We move the bone, God does the healing.
I liked it. And say the name of your practice one more time, Gerson, because I do have listeners down in the South Florida area or Central Florida area, and I want them to come to your business. Say the name of your practice again.
Cutler Ridge Family Chiropractic Center. Cutler Ridge, we have it on Facebook, on Instagram. Also, if you want to check out the website, it's MrSpine.com, spelled out MISTER, MrSpine.com.
Perfect. I'm gonna put a link down in the description below, everybody, so you can find this great gentleman. Okay. I like that. I love the passion for your business. All right, let's keep it moving. As a business owner and entrepreneur, Gerson, you are your own boss. What's the typical day like for you? I would say Saturday to Sunday.
Okay. Well, most people know. Actually, I told you I worked really hard for many years. Those first 5 to 10 years, I really, really did bust my hump. That was it. Now I work 24 hours a week. I work Monday, Wednesday, 9 to 1, 4 to 7. I come home, take a nice lunch break. I go work out, come back, shower, head to the office. So I get up early, and we were taking my daughter to school. So now this year she's going to be a junior. She'll be driving, so I'll take that also. But yeah, we're in the office 9 to 1, take a 3-hour break, work out hard, come back, see patients 4 to 7. So, and that's it. It's a great day. I take off Tuesdays. I take off half day Thursdays. We're off Saturdays and Sundays, but Monday, Wednesday. And then Friday, we go straight through. Since I keep the Sabbath, I close early at 3. So I work straight through from 9 to 3 and call it an early day. So we're in the office 24 hours a week adjusting patients. But I mean, we're seeing hundreds of patients a week because people are coming in that time span because we've taught them. And that's basically we taught them the chiropractic principles. The power that made the body heals the body. We can get everything functioning right. So when we get to the office in the morning and sometimes, and now we're seeing it more because when we dropped off my daughter at school, we'd go, drop her off at 8 at GMA, which is the Adventist Academy down here in South Florida. We'd get to the office 15 minutes later. So even though we opened at 9, we were getting there 8:15 to 8:30, depending if we stopped off and got something to eat. But we were there early. Now we have patients waiting. When we get there at 9, there's a long line. There's 15, 20 patients waiting outside the door when we get in the door, and we're off and running, adjusting patients.
Definitely. You said a lot of things that I like. Let me back up though. Earlier, you said that you were working crazy hours when you first got started. So for a lot of my listeners, and a lot of my corporate America types, we put in like a 60, 70-hour weeks. So what was Gerson Diaz working when you were in your 30s and you had just started your practice, or your 20s and you started your practice? What was your work-life balance like then? What kind of hours were you putting in then to kind of get you to build?
I was putting in long hours. I was there actually. I tried to do 9 to 5 Monday to Friday in the office, and then doing health fairs. And on Sundays I was doing a health fair. I mean, we'd be doing talks at different places. But the 9 to 5 didn't work. It didn't work for me because I get in the office. I was seeing patients 9, 10, 11, 12. Lunchtime, I'm sitting there looking, twiddling my fingers. I'm like, what's going on? It just and it happened for about 3 or 4 hours. It was dead. And then I'm trying to get out at 5, and everybody's coming after work. And so I was there till 7, 8 o'clock at night seeing patients. And I'm like, okay, this working 9 to 8. And we were there basically 9 to 8, sometimes go out, order food, eat something, and keep going, So we were working the 60, 70 hours between doing health fairs and talks and being in the office. So we started adapting. Okay, if there's a dead space between 1 and 4, it makes no sense to go in to be in the office. So that's when we close off, and stay later. So instead of doing it 9 to 5, we did 9 to 1. We closed from 1 to 4. They take my parents' old lifestyle in Colombia where they'd have the time. They'd go take their siesta. I did siestas for a while, but no, because I was getting up and going to the gym early in the morning before my daughter was born. But now I just do the gym in the middle of the day. But I've adapted. I could see as many people as I did in 50 hours. You compact them into 24 hours. So we're there later on Monday, Wednesday, and Thursdays. We're there late, because patients come in afterward. And then we're early Monday, Wednesday, Friday because patients come in early. So,
All right. I think I know the answer to this question because you've mentioned it a couple of times. How did you go about winning new clients and getting new people to come into your practice? I think I know the answer because you said it, but how did you go about winning new people to come to your practice?
We did a lot of health fairs, talks, I wherever somebody, and I would go to different places and they would invite me to speak. If I had a patient, I had signs up, I would speak at police roll calls, in the morning before they go out. I'd say, hey, chiropractic helps not only with stress, emotional stress, physical stress, keeping that spine well aligned, helps you to be a better police officer. It helps you to be a better teacher. It helps you to be a better businessman because, helps you to be a better athlete. I mean, I adjust lots of athletes. I've seen kids, running, track at Goulds Park down by my office, and some have won national championships at 8, 9, 10 years old. I've seen professional football players and basketball players, everything from little ones, because if your body functions at its best, you're always going to be better at 100% than you will be at 80 or 90%. Now it's word of mouth. We do a lot of, it's word of mouth. Patients are just referring. So.
Got you. Now, so talking to a couple other entrepreneur buddies of mine, they all say that a good way to win new clients is to do free work for a little bit. So basically go to churches, go to healthcare, go to health fairs, depending on what your business is, figure out a way to basically help people and then do it for free. And if you do that long enough, eventually people are going to start saying, okay, I want you to do this more and more. And then they'll start charging for it. Do you consider that a good way basically to bring in new work, to do free work initially and then just kind of build it up?
I don't really consider it free work. I call it donating my time, because at the high school that I went to, I adjust the wrestling team, the football team. I'd go in, in the training, I'd adjust the athletes. And that was neat. I'd take my portable table, it looks like a luggage, a suitcase. I'd open it up, in the locker room, and I'd adjust the football team in half. They ran through a few state championships in football. It was neat to see it. People, hey, you got your card. I'd give my card to those people in the stands when they see me adjusting players. Somebody get off and I adjust a cervical spine, or the quarterback, I adjust his shoulder, after he came in, and, when the defense goes out on the field. So it's neat. People see, there's a lot of people. When South Florida, they're big into football. So adjusting the athletes, and like, wow, okay, I want that. And to this day, I see athletes who I've adjusted, 28 years ago when I first opened up my practice, now they're they got their kids playing sports, and I'm adjusting their kids. So it's really neat to see. Some played major sports, at a higher level in college. Some got into the pros for a little bit, came out, but some have actually gone far. It's neat to see, but it's such a wonderful thing. So give your time, because when you give, it comes back. That's just the law of karma. But God wants you to give out of your abundance.
I agree completely with that. So you hear that to all my entrepreneurs that are listening. Basically, give your time. You can call it charity, you can call it free work, whatever you want to say, but basically do things and give your time and help people, and eventually it will come back to you. So definitely, I love that. What certifications / degrees, Gerson, did you get, and which ones would you advise aspiring chiropractors to get, and why?
Okay. Undergrad, I was a biology major. I graduated from Florida State University, got my degree in biology. Now a lot of younger people are doing exercise physiology to get into chiropractic. So that's actually a neat one, exercise physiology. I did the biology because they had all the prereqs to get in, but people did chemistry, kind of like a pre-med degree, it basically was. But the exercise physiology is neat because they're actually, getting into a lot of different fields there when they do that. And they can actually expand and do other things as far, not just the chiropractic, but expand and to have other things within the office, in rehab. So, but I did the biology and then got my chiropractic degree at Life University in Marietta, Georgia, and constantly just study, going to different adjusting seminars, I belong to a group called Business Network International, BNI. And this has nothing to do with the degrees here, but as far as giving, and their motto is giver's gain. If you give, people will give to you. I mean, I'm in a group with 50 different professionals. And what we do is, there's banker, there's real estate agents, there's mortgage brokers, there's all types of lawyers. I mean, we got like 20 different lawyers, bankruptcy, divorce, and it's neat to see because I have a Rolodex of 50 professionals who are referring me business. And I'm the go-to guy for my patients. I have their cards on the wall, and my patients ask me, hey, do you know somebody that does this? I'm like, okay, hey. And my group makes me look good for my patients, and I love that, and so it's giver's gain. So I'm able to give to my group, and my group gives business to me, and it just kind of help each other out. So BNI, you should look that up in Washington, D.C. Check that out. BNI, Business Network International. I've been a member in my 23rd year now, and the referrals I've gotten from that, I can track it within my office. But in the 23 years, we've made over $2 million just from that group in business. So,
I will absolutely be checking out BNI. I'm actually somewhat familiar with you all. I was involved with the Chamber of Commerce for a little bit when I was down in Miami. So I met a lot of business professionals with the Chamber of Commerce, and they invited me to a couple of the BNI meetings. Okay. So I absolutely will be joining them. Not a thing that would be I need to do that. Thank you for that, Gerson. I will be doing that.
You're welcome.
Yep. By the way, everybody, please like, comment, and share. Subscribe to the channel. It helps the algorithm. Let's keep it moving because I want to be respectful of your time. What advice would you give a 16-year-old boy or girl who's thinking about becoming a chiropractor? And also, what advice would you give a 15 or 16-year-old girl or boy who's thinking about becoming an entrepreneur in general, Gerson?
As far as chiropractic, I would say stay in shape. I'm 56 years old. I work out. I want to make sure I'm constantly, I'll be watching a movie with my wife and my daughter, and I have the little hand grips because guess what? There was a time when I first started, and like I said, we see a lot of patients. I felt like a baseball player, a pitcher getting off the mound, putting the shoulder on, having the ice on your shoulders, and you got to stay in shape. So main thing, walk the walk. If you want to tell your patients, get adjusted to be healthy, you need to make sure you're walking the walk and not just talking the talk. So you want to stay in tip-top shape. Learn a different language. That's key too. And in chiropractic, actually, when I was an undergrad, I needed to have a foreign language to graduate. And I spoke Spanish. I never took a Spanish course, but I learned that from my parents. And Spanish is easy to read and write. So I didn't take Spanish because I know it. I took Latin. And Latin was excellent because every medical terminology in the world is in Latin. So when you're talking, you can go to a doctor in Russia and you're not talking about your skull, you're talking about your cranium. You know, you go to Colombia, you're talking about your cranium. You go to, Africa, you're talking about your cranium, not your skull, because they won't understand. Or your, instead of your jawbone, mandible. Everybody knows what your mandible is all over the world because medical terminology is all in Latin. So whenever you're talking about your, a bone, your skin, inflammation, itis, that's worldwide. So you got tonsillitis, inflammation of your tonsil, appendicitis, inflammation of your appendix. So, or ectomy, removal of. So when you start looking at that, it's really neat. Latin is very key for medical terminology. So if you want to get into any kind of healthcare profession, Latin is key because you're gonna have to take medical terminology later. Latin makes that just smooth ride.
Definitely. What are 3 advantages that you can think of about knowing another language? Because I was definitely learning Spanish. So what are 3 advantages you would say about learning another language?
3 advantages about learning another language. Well, it's definitely helped as far as with patients. I see a lot of patients. Most of my patients speak English, obviously, but I have a good number of patients who don't speak English, and so I'm glad that I'm able to speak Spanish, and I'm able to speak some Creole. So I have patients who don't speak English, who speak Creole. So I get the Spanish. Spanish I'm pretty fluent in. The Creole and the French, I can get the terminology in that I need to. So knowing another language is the best way to be able to communicate with your patients, with your clientele. If you don't know, if you want to sell something to somebody, and now we're talking business as opposed to the kind of business in general, and they don't understand what you're selling them, or they don't understand what you're trying to tell them, it kind of defeats the purpose. You can have the best sales pitch, but if you can't get it across to somebody, it really doesn't work. So knowing another language is key. Spanish is probably the most common here in Miami, but there's French, if you're, depending on where you're living, Louisiana.
Definitely. So, yep. I remember I was backpacking across Europe and I met a mechanical engineer from, I think she was of Indian descent, but she lived in Portugal. I met her when I was in Holland. I was in Amsterdam. This woman spoke 7 languages fluently, and she said she spoke 2 of the languages passably. And we both studied mechanical engineering. Both of us, she was starting her career, I believe in Lisbon, Portugal. I was starting my career in Philly, and we were just kind of talking English, obviously. And I was thinking to myself, how in the world would I compete against this woman if we were like going for the same job? And I'll tell this to any American that's listening to this, the world, people, is global. Learn another language. My son right now, he's born. Me and my wife are considering putting him into some kind of immersion high school, or immersion elementary school, because in a couple years, probably sooner than we actually think, you are going to have to be able to speak another language. You want to be competitive on a global level. I mean, already down when I was in Miami, I had to speak Spanish literally at every meeting I was in. People, if you listen to this, learn another language, and on top of that, it also opens up to an entirely new world of amazing social interactions.
Yeah. So, and just like you mentioned, you had your friend. She was from in Europe. People learn 3-4 languages. It's common. It's very common because you travel. I mean, to get out of Miami, I got to travel 8 hours just to get out of the state of Florida from Miami. I'm driving. But if you go 8 hours, if you're in France and you go 8 hours anyway, you're going to be going to a lot of different languages. So knowing another language is key.
Absolutely. You've mentioned your daughter, Gerson. You've mentioned your family. You've mentioned your BNI family. I know you're a religious man, your church family, obviously. What role did family and marriage play in your businesses succeeding, Gerson?
Well, like I said before, my parents, were the ones who actually lent me the money to open up my practice. But I mean, I learned so much from my parents, and they weren't entrepreneurs. My dad, like I said, worked in corporate America, worked for Pan Am. But the main thing I learned from my parents, both my mom and my dad, is not spend more than you make. It's mathematically impossible if you make $1,000 that you can spend $1,200. It's mathematically impossible. Except with today's society and credit, people are able to do that. And what happens is if you're spending $1,200 a week and you're making $1,000 a week, the math doesn't add up. Eventually that's going to catch up to you. So I was always taught by my parents, and my wife, she's really good at keeping me in line with, whatever we make, give God his part first. Tithing is so important, you know, and then give back. Like we talked about earlier, you know, give back. I mean, you give back your time, give back your, you know, you got your money. I mean, you find somewhere to give, someone to give money, donate money to. There's so many people out there in need, you know, right now, all over the world, you know, and even in our own backyards. So God first, you know, make sure you, and then save. I mean, if I make $1,000, you know, and I just say that as a random number, you know, I could live off $600, you know, giving God his tithe, giving money, you know, putting money away too. I mean, you have to put money away. It really, you know, and then live off, you know. So if you're making $1,000, don't spend $1,200. You know, if you're making $1,000 a week and you're spending $1,200 a week, eventually that's going to catch up to you in your bankruptcy. And you see bankruptcy attorneys, how busy they are in today's world. I mean, we saw when COVID hit and a lot of people lost their jobs. I mean, we were taught to have 3 to 6 months, you know, reserve, you know, and a lot of people, once they lived paycheck to paycheck, when they lost the jobs, they went belly up, you know. So we can't. I was taught that, you know, and I teach it to my daughter, you know, give God his part, save, donate, you know, and you can live off, you know, easily off half of what you make. And then, you know, and when I say save, I don't really have a lot of money in an account, in a savings account where, you know, that's very liquid, but I do have money put in different, you know, Roth IRA, a SEP IRA, and I can't touch it till I'm 59 and a half, but I'm only 3 years away. But, you know, it's money that's there that like, okay, when I'm 59 and a half, I could actually retire and start living off that interest. But I still want to keep my body in shape because I would love to work another 28 years. I really would, to continue, because I love what I do. I mean, I don't want to stop and say, okay, I'm done and retire. And that's the difference between having your own business and working for corporate America for 34 years. I mean, there's people who are like, oh, I can't wait to retire. People who are my age, you know, and younger, who've retired and are living, oh, I can't wait to retire. You know, what's the next step after retirement? Death. You know, I mean, really, if you think about it, I mean, I love what I do, and if I am physically able to, I would love to work, you know, well into my 70s. If I can reach 80, great, because, you know, God has given me that opportunity to. My family is also what drives me. I want to make sure I have put money on, you know, put food on the table, have a roof over the head, you know, be the provider for my family there. You know, my wife works with me in the office too, so she's also, you know, keeps me in line in there in the office, make sure we're staying focused, you know, on what we need to do, staying the course, you know, because it's so easy to be, you know, deviate one way or another. That's why we always got to stay focused. My wife, you know, she takes me. We pray before we leave the house, you know, in the car we pray, and then when we get to the office, you know, we pray, hey God, you know, let us serve these people. Whoever needs to come in, let us serve them to the best of our ability. Let us be a good example to them. Let us make them the best opportunity at health that we possibly can. You know, so that my wife is my driving force there. You know, my daughter, we're also, like I said, put money away for her. Save. I tell that to people because I was taught that by my parents. Save. And I telling you guys now, if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you know, don't spend because that's what we've been taught. Oh, I want to have all the bling bling. No, save for a rainy day.
Definitely. Obviously, this is the name Financipation. This is obviously a financial channel. If you don't mind me asking, Gerson, some of your financial investments, what like if you were giving people financial advice, what are three pieces of, I don't know, advice you would give? Would you tell them the Roth IRA route? Would you tell them crypto? Would you tell them land? Would you tell them property, real estate? What advice would you give people from your perspective? What has worked?
Well, I'm Generation X, so I know absolutely nothing about crypto. All right, that's a new thing. And Gen X, that's for you millennials and the Gen Zs. I see crypto and I see all this. I'm like, okay, but for me, slow and steady wins the race. Just save. I mean, I hear if you're 25 years old and you've invested $10,000, you know, in a Roth. For me, it's IRAs, Roth IRAs, because you know, you're as an entrepreneur. But a 401k, if you're working for corporate America, if you've been able to put $10,000 at age 25, when you're 65, you'll have over $1 million, you know, and that's just from, you know, accrued interest. So just like a credit card gets you with accrued interest because they're charging you interest on the interest if you haven't paid off. When you're putting money away, you're making interest on the interest on the interest. So save, slow and steady wins the race. You know, you don't have to make a lot of money to be a millionaire when you retire. You really don't. We all make millions of dollars throughout our lifetime. We really do. I mean, the average, even you look at a minimal wage, somebody making $25 an hour for corporate America. If you add up how much they've made throughout their life, they've made billions of dollars. Just save, save, save. So either your 401k, make sure you're maxing it out. Your Roth IRA. We do the Roth IRA and the SEP IRA, but we're also doing life insurance. My daughter's college is already paid for through life insurance. We put money in, in whole life policies where, there you can put a lot more. Because in the Roth IRA and SEP IRA, it's a cap that you can put.
6,000 and 7,000. Yep.
Yeah, but with the life insurance, I mean, we're putting probably with all the different life insurances that we're putting about $5,000 a month in, retirement life insurance policies, for my daughter's school. So, and the good thing is, it looks like, she's doing really good. She's got good grades. Hopefully she'll do good on SATs. She'll probably get scholarships where we might not have to touch that money until grad school, which will be good, And if she decides to go in business and not go to grad school, she'll have a nice amount of money there to put a down payment on a home. So it's stuff that I wasn't, privileged to. My parents helped me open up the business, but I'm trying to help her out because, like I said, $10,000, she'll have much more than $10,000 when she's 25 years old. She'll have a retirement. And that's what, we always want to make something better for the next generation. And that's slow and steady wins the race. Save, save, save. I mean, it's so simple, I mean, my first home, the first home I bought, I had one of those big water jugs, those big water 5-gallon jugs.
Yeah.
I would roll up $20 bills. When I get $20 bills, roll them up in the penny, those little penny.
Yep.
I would roll up 5 $20 bills and $100. So I had that thing full of those little, I started off and really put pennies in there to make it heavy. So, but then I filled it up. My first home, I put the down payment from that 5, and it was like $18,000. And it was from that, I just saved whenever I rolled 20, 5 20s, roll it up in a little thing and just drop it in there. And, little things like that. I mean, no, and it wasn't getting interest from the bank, but I was just kept saving. If you put it away, you don't touch it. But it's so easy to have money in your pocket and go out. And I mean, it's so easy to spend money. Here in Miami, you go out for dinner we can blow a couple $100 easy. But, and I'm not saying never ever do that. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying save. Slow and steady wins the race.
Definitely, I agree. Yeah, Miami's it's the land of fast money. You see fast cars, fast people. It's just fast jewelry, fast everything. It's the land of that. And obviously this is a financial channel, and I agree with everything that you said. I tell one of the things that's always very sad to me is when I see people who work hard their entire life and they're about 60 and they say, Chris, I have $5,000 saved in the bank. I have $3,000 saved in the bank, and I'm terrified. And I can't tell you how many family members, how many friends, how many older people I've met who basically that's their story. They're 55 or 60 and they say they legit have $4,000 or $5,000 in their savings account. And I'm like, what did you do with your money? So what I always tell people is there are basically 4 pillars of wealth that I tell people to do. I say max out. If you are in corporate America, max out your 401k at least bare minimum every year you're in corporate America up to the employer match. If your employer says I'm gonna give you $5,000, that's what I'm matching, max $5,000. They say I'm gonna match 10% of your 401k, max 10% of the 401k. Why? Because it's legit free money. I also tell people to do HSAs just because it's a triple benefit pre-tax and everything else that comes with it. And I also tell everybody invest in the total stock market index funds. That's my personal opinion. That's how I tell people to do it. But at the end of the day, you want to invest more than you want to invest a lot more than you spend, because like I said, nothing is sadder than you see a person who worked 50, 60, 70 hours a week for 40 years and they're 55 or 60 years old and they say, I have nothing saved for retirement. That's not where you want to be.
Yeah. And like I said, we're spending more. We're living above our means, and we can't do that, especially the way we don't know how this crazy world is going. I mean, look at now, who would have thought we'd be paying $5 a gallon of gas? So be prepared, just look forward and be prepared. Real estate, it's another thing. I mean, if you can invest in real estate, price of real estate, I've known people who've made millions of dollars easily because they've sold, my first home, I bought it for $94,000. And that was back in the 90s, 98. I sold it 4 years later for $160,000. And it's like, wow, to me, that was a big money. And then I used that money and whatever I had paid off to get my next home. And, it's like, hey, you get a lot of equity in it, and that's actually good money to have, and if you have your home paid off, it's such an easy thing. If you're very disciplined at not getting in debt, you can pay off and can be completed. Because people say, oh, $30 30-year mortgage. 30-year mortgage, that's crazy,
It is crazy.
You know what the word mortgage stands for? Going back to Latin, morgue, death, and gauge. Gauge. They got you in a death grip. For 30 years. That's basically what it is. Mortgage, Latin, death grip. So a mortgage is so easy to pay off. If you pay an extra payment each year, you get that down to about 16, 17 years, and that's just one extra payment a year. So, and now if you start putting extra, there's no reason why we can't do it. I mean, business loans are made so you pay them off in 10, your business real estate, you pay it off in 10 years because they don't do mortgage. It's still a mortgage, but the word mortgage doesn't exist. So, because it's death grip, is what it is. So your home, there's no reason why we shouldn't pay it off in 10 years. If we're disciplined.
I agree. Me and my wife, we're talking about a 15-year mortgage. That's kind of, and I want to pay it off hopefully within 7-8 years. That's kind of that's what we're talking about. I never understood the point of, like you said, 30 years of paying a mortgage. Because I'm an engineer, I understand the way the laws of compound interest work, which is why I absolutely agree with you, Gerson, when you said have $10,000 in your in the IRA before you're 25. But because I understand the way interest works, yes, if you're wasting 30 years to pay off the debt, you could probably pay that thing off 2 or 3 times at least.
Exactly.
Makes no sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Makes literally no sense.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned the fact that you work with your wife. That's pretty cool, and I know how close you are with your little girl, with your daughter. What advice, Gerson, would you give young men about dating and about women today, as far as like how to select a wife and how to go about it? Because the way the entrepreneurial space works, if you marry the right woman, you can be a billionaire. If you marry the wrong woman, it's a little different.
Yeah.
So what advice would you give young men about dating and everything today?
The right woman is so important. I mean, you can have the wrong woman, and I look at the Will Smith case, look at Johnny Depp. I mean, it's like these guys are successful business-wise, I guess, in their careers. They've made lots of money, but choosing the right person is so important to have by your side, because, I mean, that can be gone really quickly, or they could just drive you down the wrong path. So behind every great man, or there's an even greater woman, and she's like 10 times greater. And you got to look at it that way, and you got to have passion for what you do. I mean, passion for everything. If there's no passion for the woman, and I'm talking about passion, and I'm talking about, when I talk about passion, I'm not talking about sexual passion, yes sir, but I'm talking about passion where, like, agape passion, where you're willing to sacrifice, your life for that person. If you don't, and a lot of people marry somebody because of the physical attraction, and they'll get paid the sexual, and you know what? That's fine, but that's temporary. You gotta have that connection with that person where you can grow with them you want to grow with that person and be with them for the rest of your life and to eternity. And if you're just thinking of physical, believe me, we look at the divorce rate here in the United States, and and it's sad. So you want to make sure when you choose somebody, picture yourself with that person. If you can picture yourself with that person, when, guess what? They don't have the biceps that Chris has, or they don't have that hourglass figure. Guess what? If you can picture, look at that person's, as a man, look at that person's mom, if she's in her 70s, okay? And if you're like, oh no, then if you can't picture yourself with that person, because of then you're looking at the wrong thing, because you're only caught up in the physical. If you can picture that person with you forever, now you're looking at the heart, because they say what makes a woman sexy is her body. What makes a woman pretty is her smile. What makes a woman beautiful is her heart. So you got to make sure you're looking for that beauty, not the sexy. And I know that's fine, that the package is fine, like a Christmas present. You can open up a box that's really pretty, and when you open it up, it's like, oh man, I can't, that's not what I wanted. But you want to make sure it's the full package.
Gerson, you got lyrics. I like that. I like what you just said. That was so true. Yeah, I ain't gonna lie. I got married a little bit later in my life because a lot of my boys that I had, a lot of my friends I had growing up, they got married before I did, and I was kind of like, all right, let me kind of figure life out, and then I'll get married when I get married. But I saw kind of a decent amount of my friends, unfortunately, their marriages did not go. They got divorced, and I kind of saw what that did to them. I was like, you know what, let me kind of sit back and just really evaluate what I want, and kind of let me make sure that I do this right and I do it one time. And that's why I got married when I got married. And everything you're saying, I agree with. My father basically said the exact same advice about selecting a wife and what you should look for. And just to keep it a buck, when Will Smith married Jada, she was worth $2 million. If he divorces her after all the infidelity, all the red table talk, basically she's gonna be worth $200 million.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
Will has probably he's worth $300 million, and Will has probably gotten, I would say, about at least 85 to 90% of the money that they're worth. So, and you can make the same thing about Amber Heard and how Johnny Depp and how that's kind of sabotaged his career. So yeah, marrying the right woman is so important if you are an entrepreneur or the the generational wealth space, because if you marry the wrong person, I've just seen with my own eyes how it's destroyed friends that I've had, how it's destroyed a lot of great people that I know of. So yeah, if you find a good wife, if you find a good woman, hold on to her, fellas, because there's not a lot of good ones out there.
Yeah. And it's not, it's not all, everything's not hunky dory all the time. It's sometimes it could be a battle, a struggle. But guess what? You struggle through things together, and that's what makes it all worthwhile.
Yeah, I agree. I've had surgery twice since I've been married. And like I got married a little bit later in life. And it's nothing like waking up next to the same person. It's nothing like knowing you got a woman in your life who has your back. It's nothing like knowing that whether you lose your job, whether you lose your career, whether your business fails, or whether you become the decamillionaire or the millionaire that you want to become. There's nothing better than building an empire with somebody. It really is. And I've traveled abroad by myself. I've traveled abroad with family. I've traveled abroad with friends. Traveling abroad with your wife is the best thing. If you get a chance to travel and you get a chance to basically experience this world, nothing is cooler than when you do it with somebody that you love. That's just kind of, I've been married for 2 years, and that's something that I've learned so far. So yeah.
We love to travel. My daughter loves traveling too now that we've gotten her hooked. But yeah, traveling for us together is awesome. And like I said, I travel a lot as a single man, but there's nothing like traveling with your family and spending that time together with the family.
I agree. I'm an avid reader, Gerson. What are 3 books you would advise my listeners to read?
I read the Bible every day. And actually, one of the things I do, I read the Bible from cover to cover every year, and I start January 1st, Genesis 1. And I usually finish in October and I start all over again. But the Bible is awesome to me. And actually, I do a lot of self-help seminars and stuff. And it's always like, if it is to be, it's up to me. And I've learned that. If it is to be, it's up to me. But the Bible gives me, keeps me humble and tells me, Philippians 4:13, I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. So without him, I know I can't do anything. Without God in my life, without Christ in our heart, he's the one, he's the driving force that keeps it going. So, if it is to be, it's up to me. It's like I said, that's the worldly mentality. And it's not a bad mentality, to have that mindset, let's succeed. But I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. That's what really, so the Bible for me is one. When I was in college, I read a great book. Like I said, I worked out all the time. I was working out. I was trying to eat right, trying to stay healthy. Diet for a New America by Tim Robbins. And
Say that again?
Diet for a New America. I read that in 1989. And it talks about all the stuff we put in foods, especially meats, and it was sad. When I read that, I actually became vegan for about 5 years. And I started getting back to chicken, and I tried to stay away because I saw, the book, if you read that book, it talks about how, in the old days, a chicken would grow, and it would take 6 months to 9 months to fully grow a chicken. And that's not the case now. We have warehouses up and down the highway here where you could see warehouses and chicken, they're in cages about the size of my computer here, and they grow in less than a month. They're fully grown and they've been slaughtered, and we're eating that. That doesn't happen naturally in nature. How does that happen? With steroids, with hormones that we're eating. So you see it with all the disease. Again, that has to do with health, all the disease that's in our body. So Diet for New America, great book. When does a cow produce milk?
I don't know.
A cow produces milk when it has a calf, when it has a baby. That's it. Just like a woman. When does a woman produce milk? When it has a baby, and she produces milk until she stops, until the baby's weaned. Same thing with a cow. But we have cows, they're hooked up to machines, and they produce milk their whole life. It doesn't, they get sick. They can't do that. So they get injected with antibiotics and steroids and hormones to be able to do that. Guess what? Milk, it does the body good. It's one of the biggest lies that we've been taught. It really, milk is so bad for us, but we drink it because we think, the calcium. No, your body can't absorb that calcium from milk because it's cow's milk. Your body, and so what it actually does, it leaches the calcium out of your bones. So you look at a lot of patients, and I see patients who osteoporosis, and they say, but I drink milk, so much milk. Guess what? The milk leaches your body. Just like, drinking purified water, and drinking pure water, if we would think that would be great. No, drinking purified or distilled water is so bad for your system. Going back 15, 20 years, I remember a lot of triathletes. They died from electrolyte shock, and that was the big thing. They were drinking a lot of stuff, and the purified distilled water, it's good to have every once in a while if you're on a trip, but it's leaching all the electrolytes out of your system. So if that's the only water you're drinking, it's slowly killing you. You can die of a heart attack and not know it because you're losing electrolytes. So, if you buy distilled water because you want it nice and clean, just squeeze a lemon into it, or lime, and then you're getting the electrolytes in it. Little things like that. But, Diet for New America, recommend it because it really, if you want to have a strong business, you need to be healthy. And that's key. That really was a great book. And then that's by Tim Robbins. And then the other one is Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki, and I'm sure you probably read that. I've read all the Cash Flow Quadrant, Who Took My Money. I've read all those books. But Rich Dad, Poor Dad really, put it in perspective. It's like, wow, we make so much money. And if you look at the money we make, because we're okay, if I make $1,000, I put 200 here, 200, it's like it's all going away before we even make it. So we have to take control of the money that we make and not just spend it. So Rich Dad, Poor Dad, if you haven't read that book, I highly recommend it.
Definitely. I agree. Readers are leaders. They say the average American reads one book a year. They said the average millionaire reads 56 books a year. So I don't think that's by accident. That's not a coincidence. The average millionaire reads a little more than one book a week. So
you got to constantly learn. And there's a lot of different, you may not agree with stuff that you read. We don't agree 100% on everything we talk about. No, we can't. We agree 100%, but we have to love everybody. And reading is so key, for a lot of that thing.
I agree. If I were to answer this book, the three books I would advise all my listeners to read. First and foremost, I'll say the Bible. I think it's always, you cannot go wrong with the Word of God. I don't care how you look at it. Obviously, this is a financial channel. It's not necessarily a religious channel, but you learn so much about being a man, so much about being a woman, so much about finance, so much about science, so much about your career, so much about life in general, just by reading God's Word. So I'm gonna go ahead and say that right now. Read the Bible. Even if you're not a Christian, I'm telling you right now, read that book, and you're gonna be amazed how beautiful it is. Yes. Another book I would say everybody should read, How to Win Friends and Influence People. That's one of the best books I've ever read, as far as if you want to get people to like you and you want to basically get people to kind of think the way, I don't say the way that you want them to think, but if you want people to kind of be on the same page with you, that's a very good book as far as getting people to say, you know what, he's a good guy. I'm gonna listen to what he has to say. And if you want to go into business, you want to go into sales, you want to be an entrepreneur, getting people to like you is probably about 50% of the battle. Another good book I'm gonna recommend is Scholarships: The Golden Road to Financial Emancipation. I'm saying that book actually there's a link below for it because a lot of people who are listening to this, you guys have kids, and eventually at some point your kids are going to want to go to college. And that's a very good book in regards to how you can go about finding hundreds of thousands of dollars of scholarships, and also as well as how you can go about basically figuring out a way to not go into student loan debt. So those are the books that I'll recommend. And last one, there's another book by Mark Alexander called Buy, Rent, Rehab, Refinance, and Repeat. If you want to get into real estate, that gentleman talks about how he basically has went into real estate, and he owns over 400 pieces of over 400, as he calls, doors of property. And it's a very interesting way as far as how he goes about finding real estate and how he goes about basically marketing and getting it. So those are the books that I'll recommend. All right, let's keep it moving. I'm sorry, Garrett, we about to say something, Gerson?
I say amen.
Okay. I want to be respectful of your time, so let's keep it moving. Father, husband, entrepreneur, chiropractor. When God calls you home, Gerson, what do you want your legacy to be?
I want it to be, and actually Proverbs 3:5 says, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. I want people to remember me as somebody who trusted God, in every aspect, I trusted God. I mean, sometimes you have to step out in faith. I trusted God. And then 2 Timothy 4:7-8 says, I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith. That's important. I want people to remember me for trusting in God and for running a good race, fighting a good fight, keeping the faith.
Definitely. I love it. Cool. All right, well, we're winding down. There are 3 questions that some of my listeners have asked me, so I will go ahead and ask them. So let me pick the 3 that I think are the best. Actually, let's go with this one first, because you mentioned your daughter a couple of times. You mentioned your daughter a few times on this podcast. My wife is 6 months pregnant with our little girl, and it is our first child. I'm nervous and didn't grow up with my father. And what advice would you give me about being a father and raising a daughter?
Daughters are daddy's little girls, okay? Boys, sorry, Chris, they're mommy's little boys, right? Boys are for mom, but daughters, she's gonna have you wrapped around your finger, daddy's little girl, show her the man that you want her to marry. That's the best example. So the way you treat your wife, the way you treat her is the way you want her to be treated when she grows up. It's over. So if you're showing that bad example, that's what she's going to look for. If you show her a good example, she's going to be looking. They always say daughters marry someone who's very similar to her dad. So.
Interesting. There's actually a word in that because I guess I got married. I dated a lot and I got married relatively recently. And if girls are marrying men that remind them of their fathers, that means a lot of fathers out here leaving a lot to be desired, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Yeah, wow. That's a word in that. All right. I like this question because this guy, I think a lot of people fit this description. So he says, I'm 19 and I quit college because I started a business. At first, my girlfriend supported me, but because I wasn't making enough money with my t-shirt business, she left me. Should I stop trying to be my own boss and get a job? Or should I stay on my grind and keep trying to be my own boss like you?
There's nothing wrong with keep grinding. If you could keep grinding, just go out there and meet more businesses that you could sell your t-shirt businesses to. You have to promote yourself. You really have to promote yourself. Like I said, BNI is a great way where I was able to promote myself, meet other business professionals who are interested in what you do, So it's sometimes grinding and you're working by yourself, it's hard. But if you can get other people, involved, kind of just like a snowball, a little snowball, when it starts going, it starts to grow, but it needs more, it needs that little push. So yeah, I would keep grinding because guess what? Corporate America, it's great and all, but if you start your own business at 19, God bless you. I would keep going.
I like that. Definitely. I'll add to this as well. I agree with everything Gerson said. Sometimes it's kind of good for a person to show you who they really are. If she's not with you, you don't have any money, man, maybe she's not the one for you. Or maybe you weren't working hard enough. She saw that and she's like, okay, you're not serious about your business. And I'm gonna find somebody who is serious about what they do. I don't know, but I will say this. Sometimes when people show you who they really are, believe them. So work on your business, grind. And I can also say this. If you basically take care of your body and you basically make wise investments with your money and you stack your paper, you are always going to have women in your life. So my advice is pick the right one, okay? And the right one, you're going to know when you meet her. So, yep.
And 19 is very young, so when she left you, there's more fish in the sea there.
Definitely. And then the last question, Gerson, this gentleman says, he is Central American. How has your culture helped you become the man that you are? How did it help you as an entrepreneur?
My Latin culture as an entrepreneur. Wow, that's a great question. Just knowing the different language was key. But the culture, it's like, my patients come in and I give them a hug. Even, we stopped for a little bit with COVID, but then once we went right back, I give, it's a Latin thing. You hug your patients. I hug my male and my female patients. It's not something you see with, the American culture is like, nah, but it is. And, guess what? Patients love that. They feel it's Cutler Ridge Family Chiropractic Center, but my patients feel like family. So, and that's something that you see in the Central American, South American culture, when you meet somebody, your patients become your family. For me, my patients are my family. And it is, if you have your own business, your clients become like family. And that's the neat thing, in the Latin culture.
Absolutely. I'm not Hispanic, but I will say this. I traveled a lot. I married an immigrant woman. My wife is of Caribbean descent. I can just say this from being an American who has lived abroad, experienced a lot of different cultures and stuff like that. To everyone listening to this podcast, get as exposed as you possibly can to other cultures. Hang out with Indians, hang out with Caribbean people, hang out with Latin people, hang out with Europeans, hang out with Africans. You'll be shocked at just the different capital that's going to give you when you get in certain rooms. When I first met my wife, actually, they were flat out shocked I was not Caribbean. They literally did not believe me because they were just like, how do you know so much about our culture? I was like, because I wanted to visit other worlds. And that's what it is when you basically visit other cultures. So I agree with everything that you said, Gerson. Just in general, people want to feel welcome. They want to feel beloved when they walk into your practice, into your business, or when they meet you. And if you can do that for them, you'll have a friend. You probably will have a friend for life. Yeah. So, yep.
Extended family for life.
Exactly. I like it. Not just friend, extended family.
Yeah.
This is a phenomenal podcast, Gerson. Like I said, I like talking to entrepreneurs because to me, you guys give a lot of people hope. I'm not one of these type of YouTubers, and I'm not one of these 9-to-5ers or whatever entrepreneurs who basically wants to belittle corporate America. And I don't belittle entrepreneurs either. I think there's a beauty in both worlds. And I don't bash either side on my channel, but I do like interviewing entrepreneurs because there's a certain way you guys talk about work that a lot of 9-to-5ers don't talk about work. There's a certain way you guys look at Monday mornings that a lot of 9-to-5ers don't look at Monday mornings. And I do truly believe that if you want to change kind of the direction of how people kind of view something, start a business. Because if you're a business owner, America rewards business owners with taxes. They reward business owners as far as the lifestyles you can possibly have. So I like talking to entrepreneurs because you give a lot of people hope. So, yep.
Thank you. I loved it. Thank you very much, Chris. This was awesome.
No doubt. So before we go, Gerson, is anything you would like to say before I do my outro and anything?
I'd like to say thank you, Chris, for this opportunity. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed talking to you. You're a great man, and I look forward to seeing you soon. I got to make it up to Washington, D.C.
Definitely. And one last thing, where can people find your practice? Tell me about it. IG, social media, Facebook, wherever. Yeah. How can I get in touch with you?
www.mrspine.com, MISTER SPINE, MrSpine.com spelled out, and that's the website. You can reach us there from anywhere. It's Cutler Ridge Family Chiropractic Center on Facebook or Instagram.
Perfect. All right, got you. Thank you for this. Once again, everybody, the channel Financial Patient is all about making money. It's all about saving money. It's all about building generational wealth. And it's all about financially emancipating yourself from generational poverty. And one of the best ways to financially emancipate yourself from generational poverty is to start a business that you can give to your kids, your grandkids, and keep it rolling. So with that, Gerson, I appreciate it. Thank you, and have a good one.
Thank you very much. God bless you, brother.
God bless you well. Peace.